I welcome longtime member Wava Osbourne to share her wisdom.
I think we should have had more of that music. It was fabulous. Yeah, and by the way, I asked to have Amazing Grace done. If we have a title, Rest in Peace, of course, that kind of ties in. But several years ago, Bob did a background on the story of Amazing Grace. And it isn't what that most people think it is. It's ask Bob afterwards. So anyway, you know, sometimes it's interesting how things come to us and how we come about finding things. Some of you may know that I have been involved with identity theft education and for several months now. And a couple months ago, I was on a conference call, and the guest speaker was Dr. Miles Monroe. And Dr. Monroe was talking about our potential and dying with your potential unreleased. And I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. So I went on to Amazon and Googled and got his book, Releasing Your Potential. So excited about getting it, and because I thought this sounds like an interesting topic. Well, the book came in, I unwrapped it, I took it into the kitchen, didn't have a lot of time at that particular time to read it, so I later that night saw the book and thought, okay, and now I don't know how you guys read a book, but for me, I unwrapped it and okay, best-selling author, Rediscovering the Kingdom. Gave me a little pause, so I turned the book over to the back and it says, okay, activate your buried treasure and ignite the wheels of productivity. I thought, I can do that. I glanced on down and it said it will release a death blow to procrastination and set you on a path to personal fulfillment, purpose, and productivity. I thought, that's good because I have a PhD in procrastination sometimes. Moving right on down, it says, break free and leap over the limitations of past opinions, failures, and disappointments. This is sounding better. So instead of starting at the front, I usually kind of thumb through the book, and these things just popped up. Principles. God believes in you and your abilities. You're as valuable and capable as God says you are. Okay, so I moved right along. Just kind of flipping through God's Word and your value. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and start over here at the first, and we'll see. I flipped it open, and the dedication to my darling wife, Ruth. Okay, moving right along. To the millions of other children who were victims of abortion, robbed of the opportunity to release and maximize their awesome potential. So, okay, that's another way of looking. So, and I moved right along, and then I opened the foreword. Solomon wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the day of man. I said, Glancing on down, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every other living thing that moveth upon the earth. I thought, okay, yes, then that's why we're in the pickle that we're in now. So about that time, I was measuring the distance to the trash can, and it's like, but the phone rang, and my evangelical friends would tell me that was divine intervention. So I laid the book back down and spoke probably to Mary, and I picked it up, and it moved. It was on the preface. So I read, okay, the poorest person in the world is the person without a dream. The most frustrated person in the world is the person with the dream that never becomes reality. This is getting my attention. No matter how poor or rich we are, whether we were born in the bush village of an undeveloped nation or amid the marble floors of the aristocracy of society, we all have childhood dreams. I continued to read, flipped it on over. Your life has the potential to fulfill your purpose. If, however, you imprison that potential, you rob your life of its purpose and fulfillment. Living with ability brings responsibility. Dying with ability reveals irresponsibility. You owe it to the next generation to live courageously so the treasure of your potential is unleashed. So, this book does have potential. So I moved on over to the introduction, and it was a cool, wet, rainy September Sunday. So I thought, okay, this is a story, and I love stories, and especially Donna Marie's stories. So anyway, it was a cool, wet, rainy Sunday, September afternoon in the historic city of London. We had just finished a delightful meal when our host suggested we take a quiet stroll through the neighborhood park. I had been traveling for 8 days, keeping a schedule that had to this point taxed me both physically and mentally. It was a rare pleasure and a welcome joy to embrace the opportunity to spend those quiet moments alone. We entered the well-manicured grounds and observed with a great degree of surprise the number of people who had the same idea. My host took delight in pointing out to me the various plants, birds, flowers, and lush vegetation. After we had walked a short distance, we were interrupted by an elderly gentleman who greeted my host with great joy. My host introduced me, then continued his conversation with the gentleman. I took the opportunity to steal away for that private, relaxing walk I had desired. After I had walked for a few minutes, the pathway meandered to the entrance of an old cemetery. My tenacious interest in history drew me to explore the historical nature of the tombstones and the grave markers just to satisfy my curiosity. What an awesome experience it was to read and study the many names, dates, and quotes those silent stones spoke. Names like John Hill, 1800 to 1864, Elizabeth Robinson, 1790 to 1830, and so on, which gave evidence of the years of British history there. Then I came upon a small grave, perhaps 3 feet in length, that read, Marcus Rogers, 1906 to 1910. Written below the name was the quote, gone but not forgotten. A brief calculation revealed that this was the resting place of a 4-year-old child. After scanning the hundreds of markers and stones, my eyes rested once again upon the grave of the child. Deep contemplation settled upon me. I noticed that almost all the tombstones, including the child's, had the words, "Rest in peace," inscribed on them. Many questions and thoughts raced through my mind. Who were the child's parents? What was the cause of death? What was his purpose in being here? What special natural talents and gifts did he possess that were never displayed and never benefited anyone? What inventions or discoveries could he have shared with the human race? How many great works of art, books, or songs died in that precious infant? As silence answered, I suddenly applied the questions to the many tombstones that surrounded the child's resting place. Some of the others had recorded lifespans of 30, 40, 60, and even 75 years. Yet the only testimony to their time on this planet was rest in peace. Then I wondered, how can you rest in peace if you died with all your potential inside? As the wet, misty rain formed dewdrops on my cheeks, I walked away thinking, what a tragedy it is for a child to die at such a tender age before he has the opportunity to realize his full potential. Immediately, a quiet voice screamed in my head, is it not a greater tragedy if those who live to old age also carried their books, their art, their music, their inventions, their dreams and potential to the grave? Suddenly, the rain seemed to turn to sweat as I pondered the awesome implications of this question. One of my greatest fears is that many who walk the streets of our world, perhaps some who are reading this book, will deposit in the cemeteries of their communities the wealth of potential locked inside them. I trust that you will not allow the grave to rob this world of your latent potential. There are 5 billion people on this planet. Each one is very special, unique, original, and significant. All possess a genetic combination that codes them as distinct individuals whose fingerprints cannot be duplicated. There is no one like you now, nor will there ever be. Each of us, whether black, brown, yellow, red, or white, was conceived by destiny, produced by purpose, and packaged with potential to leave a meaningful, fulfilling life. Deep within you lies the seed of greatness waiting to be germinated. You have been endued with natural talents, gifts, desires, and dreams. All humanity in all cultures, races, socioeconomic situations lives with the natural instinct to manifest this potential. I thought, what an interesting polylogue we are going to have. So are we born with a purpose? Who determines that? Do you determine it, or is it something that was innately in you by your God, your Creator, your Mother Earth? Being a confirmed agnostic, I don't know.